My name is Eugene Hernandez. I am the editor of IndieWIRE, here with my colleagues Brian Brooks, who's the managing editor of IndieWIRE, and Eric Kohn, our lead critic here at IndieWIRE. Thank you for joining us. We have a very special guest joining us on IndieWIRE's daily talk here at the Filmmaker Lounge. A very special guest joining us in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we're doing our morning, our afternoon hot topics, talking a bit about what's happening at the festival. This is a daily conversation about films and filmmakers and what's happening here at the Toronto International Film Festival. There's a schedule up, so we invite you to check in daily here at lunchtime at the Filmmaker Lounge. I'm going to start with my colleague, Eric Kohn, who's seated to my left, and we'll have James Franco joining us shortly, followed by Ted Hope and Miranda Bailey, who produced Super, which played last night. I've got my colleague Eric Kohn here. He's been watching movies many more than I have, certainly. So Eric, tell us about what you've seen, what you like, what your impressions are of Toronto this year's festival, the first couple days.
Yeah, well, yesterday I saw The Way, which is Emilio Estevez's film, the new one that he has here after premiering Bobby a few years back.
He was here yesterday. He was talking with Brian.
Right, talking about the movie, and I was very impressed with what he was able to do, given that the scenario sounded maybe a little too sentimental and small for an 140-minute movie. And it's Martin Sheen, as his father, as a man who learns that his son has died traveling a pilgrimage in Spain, and he decides to travel to Spain to recover the body and complete the pilgrimage, which you can imagine would involve a lot of sad monologues and crying and all these sort of things that make people who have to see a lot of movies here sort of, get squeamish. But it works really well. It's a very understated movie. Martin Sheen's really good in it. It's funny in a very subtle way, and it's driven by the dialogue more than the dogma. So it's not really a preachy movie, and I was really satisfied to see how well that came together.
Well, you've reviewed, I think you've reviewed some 24, 25 films out of this festival so far. Some you watched at other festivals, obviously, leading into Toronto. What's your impression of the kinds of movies you're seeing at the festival this year, or coming into the festival this year? How does it compare to other years? What's your sort of takeaway? I know it's only early on, but what do you take from it?
Still early, but it seems like, we're not being surprised by anything yet. Like I said, I was surprised by The Way, but as far as the movies that are getting a lot of buzz coming in from Venice and Telluride, those are the ones that people are still talking about. So.
Just curious, were you expecting not to like The Way?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about a movie like that is that when you hear something that's such a basic premise that you can put in a bottle and just run with it, I mean, it's sort of like the Little Miss Sunshine factor. Everybody's making the same movie over and over again. So when you see it actually work, and it's not trite, it's not too mushy, they're not going for the easy tricks, it's actually relatively satisfying. Another way to put it would be if you set your bar really low, it's easy to have your expectations exceeded. But this is actually a good movie, and I do recommend it.
I'm sure you're talking to a lot of your colleagues who are also critics. I see folks gathering in groups after and before screenings, and I know that folks are tweeting about the screenings and reactions immediately after. You're probably following that a little more than I am. What are you hearing from other critics about films that people are liking, that people are finding interesting, that people might be surprised or disappointed by? What are you hearing the first couple days?
Well, Black Swan is still a big talk of the town. Another one would be David Schwimmer's Trust, which was sort of a question mark a few days ago. They were here yesterday to talk about it, and I've heard some very divided reactions about that movie, which hasn't been bought yet. So, it's got a very contemptuous topic, and there's just been a lot of really diverse reactions to that one. In addition to that, I think Never Let Me Go is another movie. It's the Fox Searchlight movie directed by Mark Romanek, which we spoke about briefly yesterday, where you either love it or love to go after the reasons why it doesn't work for you. So, it's an interesting mixture of reactions to those movies, but we still got a ways to go.
All right. Well, let me ask Brian, seated next to you, managing editor of IndieWIRE. You've been attending this festival for a number of years, but obviously there's a lot of changes this year.
Yeah, actually it was interesting when we, before the festival, our colleague Peter Connect had interviewed Cameron Bailey, and he sort of made an interesting point about how it'd be sort of a first time for him as well because of the whole shift downtown. And I've been coming here for 10 years, and it is sort of interesting. I actually was up in Montreal, I arrived by train, got out of the station, and I'm taking this taxi, and I usually go way up Yonge, and we stay up by Bloor and everything. And then I'm over in this hotel, and I'm like, what the hell is this place? So, and it's kind of funny, like running around, I'm like, I've been here for 10 years, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, and I asked some festival people. I went to a press conference just now for Waiting for Superman, and was in the Hyatt and asking some people who were festival, and certainly no criticism of the people that work here, they're great, but they didn't exactly know what the press conference was. So, I think it's just sort of a new festival for everybody in certain ways.
Yeah, we're all kind of finding our way together.
Yeah, but I think generally, people seem to like it. I've heard I actually ran into another colleague who's from Europe, and he was like, wow, this is amazing, this whole, it's so vast down here. And so, yeah, I think I like it. I think downtown is actually kind of an interesting place, but it is certainly sort of a reinvention for me. And I kind of wonder if that's how it is for most people. What do you guys think? Yeah, yeah, okay.
We're going to have our guest joining us in just a moment. James Franco will be with us. Before we let Eric and Brian go, what are you guys looking forward to? What are you seeing later today, tomorrow morning? What are you anxious for, both of you?
Well, I went to the press conference for Waiting for Superman, and one thing we were talking about yesterday were a lot of the, some of the higher profile feature films, which, are certainly on my itinerary this week, but I'm definitely also looking forward to a lot of the documentaries. I think are going to be very important, very, very, very interesting. Davis Guggenheim, who of course won an Oscar for An Inconvenient Truth, has his next film here, and it sounds very important. It was a very amazing press conference. Bill Gates was there. It's sort of interesting to be in a room, knowing that he's richer than probably all of downtown Toronto. But it's like, look at this man, there he is, But
and we'll have Andi Timoner, who directed Cool It, will be here on Monday afternoon talking about her film, same time. Great. Eric, give us the last final words before you head off to the screening. Actually, you'll be interviewing Ted here, Miranda. What are you looking forward to? What do you see?
Tonight I'm seeing Beginners, which is Mike Milne's new feature after making Thumbsucker a few years ago with Keanu Reeves, and it's definitely a big question mark on the schedule for me. I like that movie a lot, and Milne's an interesting filmmaker who's also done documentaries, and this is supposed to be a very sort of low-key, actor-driven film about an older man coming out of the closet. I hope that it works. It sounds like the sort of ingredients that should come together nicely, so I'm definitely pumped for that.
Okay, cool. Well, Eric will be back in a few minutes. After we talk with James Franco, we'll have Ted Hope and Miranda Bailey here to produce Super, which debuted last night. Eric will be back to talk to them. In the meantime, we're about to bring on our guest. We're working with our friends at BlackBerry this year, and we invite you, if you have a BlackBerry device, to send us your questions via BBM. The PIN number, if you're on BlackBerry, 20878C9E.